Financial with Christopher Calandra, Certified Financial Planner, is an innovative, comprehensive, informative, and cutting-edge podcast that discusses financial topics ranging from personal finance, economics, politics, and personal growth. Simply Financial will cover intriguing and thought-provoking questions so that the listener can simply increase their financial IQ.
Welcome to this episode of the Simply Financial podcast. This is Season 4, episode number 11. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra. My guest today is Teddy Cummins, and I wanted to have Teddy on the show. We've had a number of discussions, especially recently, and he's got some really great stories and thoughts on money. He's had a very interesting path to a successful retirement. He and I also have some great conversations because we're both history geeks. I'll ask Teddy when I bring him on if he agrees with the geek part. But we swap book ideas, and when we're together, we often talk about World War II history, especially aviation, military history. So we have that in common. So, Teddy, thanks for spending a few minutes with me today.
All right.
Is it okay that I describe you as a history geek?
Yeah, that's fine. I am what I am.
So much of what I wanted to talk to you about, we've kind of covered at least a little bit when we've been together, including I was with you and your wife at dinner a few weeks back. But maybe we could just start at the beginning and get listeners kind of on the same page with you and I. You grew up, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Mississippi.
Okay.
I was just average family. I didn't consider myself poor. I didn't consider myself anything, to be honest with you. You know, we were just a normal family. My parents didn't have money. They both worked. I remember them, you know, saving money just to buy tires, you know, for the car, or I'd hear them talk about it. Really, the only savings I think they had would be like a Christmas club account where you would save a little money, then be able to buy Christmas gifts, you know. But I just considered myself average person growing up in the South.
So in the moment when you were young and when you were a teenager, you didn't really categorize your family. You didn't think about it much. Is that right?
No. All my friends were the same.
And looking back on it.
Yeah.
But looking back on it now, with having been around the block a few times and a retirement-aged individual now, looking back on it, how would you describe it?
I think about it often. I waste more money than my parents ever thought about having. You know, I mean, just going out to eat, buying toys, or, you know, it's a completely different world from what I grew up in, money-wise. You know, it's no object for me to go buy anything I want, you know. My parents never had that opportunity.
So would you describe your life as achieving the American dream, given what you just spoke about?
Oh, yes. Yes. I couldn't, and I have joked about it in the past. If I had sat down at a young age and planned my life, I probably would have screwed it up. Everything just worked. You know, it just worked out. You know, it's better than I could have dreamed. You know, say a senior in high school, if they would have said, "What do you want to do in life?" You know, if it would have went with what I said in high school, I wouldn't be where I am now. You know, just the meeting the people, the learning about money later on in life, how to save money, all that, you know, it is a dream, you know.
And can I ask you this, Teddy, because I've never been to Mississippi. I'm a Yankee. I grew up in New York City, and I live in Connecticut. Never been to Mississippi. Did you grow up in rural Mississippi, like farming community mostly? Can you, just because, again, I'm a northerner, kind of paint a picture for me, kind of where you grew up in Mississippi?
Yes, it was a rural community. You know, our school, they call it a consolidated because it was You know, kids from all over the county would ride buses to the school. You know, it was a small rural town, you know, but we didn't know any different, you know, other than going in the library and reading a newspaper or something. We didn't know how other parts of the country lived. We were just, to us, we were normal.
And Teddy, you mentioned a moment ago about your parents perhaps saving for something like tires. In thinking about your upbringing and what you've accomplished financially over your lifetime, achieving the American dream, can you think back to what you learned about money when you were growing up?
No, I didn't have it. The only thing I can say is when I did get out of junior college and get a job, I bought everything I could charge. You know, I guess I had felt like I had done without growing up. And just as soon as I got on my own, I charged and bought everything I could. You know, it was wrong, but I guess having to do without at a young age, just as soon as I got on my own, I'd ask my wife, can we afford it? And she said, yeah, charge it, you know. So debt was not, do you know if your parents used debt? My mother saved on absolutely everything. I mean, I can tell you stories of how she would freeze her SOS pad to make it last longer. You know, she was a penny pincher, and my brothers and I talk about it. You know, I guess because she was such a penny pincher, we are just the opposite. You know, if we see something we want it, we go buy it. You know, so.
All right. And so you mentioned now you get out of junior college, you said, and you had this kind of pent-up demand. You're making some money, and you had gone without. And
right.
So when did that phase end, and how did it end where I assume it occurred to you that you were not managing your money wisely, because the Teddy I know is not really going to be attracted to debt and living above your means. So can you walk me through, as a young man and a young husband, how that change came about after you went through this phase of charging?
My first wife and I were married, I think, 13 years, and we got a divorce, and I was very bad in debt. But I learned that the material things in life mean nothing. You know, the motorcycles, the cars, the shotguns. You know, once you lose all that and you stop and look at the big picture, that stuff doesn't mean anything. And really, the divorce from my first wife made me realize, you know, there's more to being happy than just going buying stuff. You know, and it took me years to get out of debt after my first marriage because I had charged so much. And I kept the bills and gave the house to her and my son because I felt like I had made the mistake, so it was my job to pay all my bills off, you know. But that was an eye-opener for me, the divorce, you know.
So can I ask, Teddy, when you were divorced, how old were you?
Around 30, 31, something like that.
And is it fair to say after the divorce, after this debt accumulated, that your views on debt were never the same?
Correct. I just didn't, it was not the debt. I guess I was trying to find happiness by buying stuff. And that doesn't make one happy. At least it didn't for me. You know, I still at the time after my divorce, I didn't have money, and I still wasn't wise as far as saving money. I learned that between my first marriage and my second marriage.
And you met some people along the way that helped you manage money more wisely and led to your eventual financial success. I know you said, and appropriately so, that money's not the most important thing, far from it. But you met some people along the way in this phase after the first divorce that kind of helped you. Can you touch on that a bit?
Yes. I was real down after my divorce, and my supervisor at work, I guess he thought I was suicidal or something. I don't know. But he called me in his office, and we sat down and talked, and he explained to me what I was going through in life was really nothing. And he talked about he fought in Italy during the Second World War, and he told me the hardships that he and his other soldiers went through. And he suggested I go read a few World War II books and let me realize how tough life can be. So I started reading World War II books, go to the library, checking them out. And in the meantime, I was finding veterans, local veterans, and talking to them. And a friend of mine mentioned that there was a man downtown that flew P-47 Thunderbolts during the war. So I made an appointment on an off day to go down and see him, and he just happened to be a broker. But I didn't go in thinking about money. All I was wanting to talk about was the war. But while we were talking, I had an envelope in my pocket, and it was a savings account I had started at the bank for my son's college. And after we talked about the war, he asked me what was in my envelope, and I told him. And he started explaining mutual funds. He was big in the Putnam firm. And he explained what I could do with my money, and really he opened my eyes up to saving money. He was my start, you know.
And so just to be clear, broker, back in previous generations, instead of using the term that's more common today, like I'm a certified financial planner, typically we'll use the term financial advisor. There's different terminology in my industry, Teddy. But at that time, stockbroker was the more common term, because I wanted to point that out for listeners, because today, usually broker would be more like a mortgage broker, and the stockbroker terminology is kind of fallen by the wayside. So he
Now, that's what I called him. He never called himself a broker. To me, I mean, I didn't have any knowledge of money or anything. But to me, he was, hey, this guy's a broker. He buys stocks, I mean, I was very ignorant. And that's the reason I called him a broker, because I didn't know any better,
And so did he, so you invested money with him?
Yes. He got me into mutual funds. And once I started saving money, it became a game. I wanted to see how much I could save, and I could learn about investing, and it just skyrocketed from there,
So, did he educate you?
Yes.
So he was He was a good teacher and coach.
Yes. It was so. I have told this story before. About this time, my father retired. And I had been investing for maybe a couple years, and I went to see my father, and we were talking, and just jokingly, he said, "Can I borrow some money?" And I said, "Yeah, what for?" And he says, "I got to pay my taxes on my 401. And I asked him, "Where do you have your 401? And he said, "In the bank." I said, "In the bank?" And I didn't say anything, but I went home and thought about it, and I called my parents. They lived about 45 miles away. And I said, "Y'all have a appointment with Mr. Harding tomorrow at 10 o'clock, which was a lie. But they said, "Okay, we'll be there." Well, then I called Mr. Harding. I said, "My parents are going to come there and talk to you." My parents knew anything. They didn't know anything about saving money or investing. And after I don't know how long they talked, I wasn't there. But after they talked to my broker, as I call him, Mr. Harding, they went back to their hometown and found an advisor or whatever there, and they got my father's 401, put it in different mutuals. They, at the time, were drawing out 0.5% a month